Greetings, my fellow Stream Low Sovereign Thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to L3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realm of the planet Earth, and today's date is Wednesday, October 6th, 2021. And it looks like there was an incident happened in Arlington, Texas at a high school, and a student turned himself in, had a lawyer represent him. It looks like this is not more than an isolated incident, but you don't go bring firearms to solve your problems unless it's really necessary. But based on what I heard so far, it was a little bit absurd, but we don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, correct? Always believe in this, folks. You should always be neighborly the best you can. Doesn't matter where you're at, even the ones you may not be crazy about. But you want to keep things peaceful, because there's folks out there don't give a damn about either of us across the board. So, just wondering to see how accurate the information is. Of course, the drama queen's going to go at it, and the political bobbleheads, the pundits, the so-called paper activists out there. Don't fall for it, folks. But like I said, love your neighbor as thyself. So, speaking of neighbors, getting along and so forth, something controversial may have occurred here. I was looking at the Epoch Times. Came out today. It's by Peter Zavab. Hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. Unvaccinated teachers in New York City blame union for losing their jobs. That's what Mrs. Zavab has to say. Teachers who were put on unpaid leave for non-compliance with the recent CCP virus vaccine mandate say New York City's largest teachers union should have fought harder against the city's vaccination requirement for school staff. Several hundred teachers and other school staff and supporters chanted, "We will not comply," and other slogans as they marched on October 4th from the Brooklyn offices of the city's Department of Education over the Brooklyn Bridge and to the Australian consulate in Manhattan in protest of the city's vaccination mandate for school workers, as well as other aggressive measures used in many countries to curb the spread of the virus, which they see as stifling freedom. Where is the UFT? Why aren't they here? What kind of union is this? Somebody in the crowd shouted, referring to the United Federation of Teachers. Where's McGrew? The crowd soon followed in a chant, referring to the UFT head, Michael McGrew. UFT didn't respond to a request for comment. The city gave school staff until the night of October 3rd to at least one shot of the vaccine, lest they face a year of unpaid leave or resign with a severance package. Over 9% of the staff made the deadline, leaving several thousand resisting based on data released by the DOE. When the news of the mandate first came out during the summer, the UFT seemed ready to put up a fight. All it managed to do, however, was to get in the city to recognize the religious and medical exemptions. About 3,000 teachers asked for those, but anecdotal accounts indicate that they are spiraling approved. DOE didn't respond to requests for data on the matter. They caved in, and they shouldn't have, says Kay Ellis, 29, special education teacher in the Bronx. Ellis said she was the only one in her family holding off on taking a vaccine. "I don't trust the government," she told the Epoch Times. Authorities have been very fishy about the vaccine in her view. "I'm not usually against vaccines, but there's something that's underneath this," she said. She said she suspects that through crisis such as pandemics, the government pursues a goal beyond the mere welfare of the populace. "I don't think that they are very honest and upfront about what their main motive is," she said. It is heightened her suspicion to see media avoid news about resistance to the vaccine. "This is how you know they're hiding something," she said. Orlean Borno, 51, was a high school teacher for 26 years before being stripped off her job for refusing the jab. "I call it medical tyranny," she told the Epoch Times, adding that she found in the mandate unconstitutional and immoral. She laminated the abrupt end to her decades-long career. It pains me. I gave 26 years of DOE to my students, to a wonderful profession, and for the government to just turn their backs on us, dedicated educators, I feel betrayed, she said. Her students were devastated to learn on her departure, while parents have backed her decision, she said. They understand, they support us. In her view, the vaccination shouldn't be required because teachers are able to ensure a sufficient level of safety regardless, as they did before the vaccines released, with mask wearing and testing for infection. We are doing it fine, she said. She wasn't yet convinced of the safety of the novel vaccine, which was approved in record time. The information is available, she found politicized. It's political science now, she said. It's not real science that's happening right now. It's causing a divide. She suggested the measures to contain the virus went too far in limiting people's liberties, and authorities appear reluctant to let them go. If we don't stop this now, it's never going to end, she said. Morneau was teaching history at the Benjamin N. Cardozo High School in Bayside, Queens. Finds the current period critical to set society's course on track to freedom. This is not the future I want for my students, she said. Leanne Barrett, 32, has been teaching for 8 years, now at the same school as Morneau, declined the shot as it's still too new to be trusted, she indicated. The vaccine hasn't been tested long enough, and there hasn't been enough data to put a lot of concerns aside, she said, told the Epoch Times. She found it irresponsible that natural immunity acquired through COVID-19 infection isn't recognized by authorities in lieu of vaccination, despite studies showing that natural immunity provides equivalent or even better protection from the CCP virus. It becomes a political thing more than a medical thing, she said. Queen's teacher Rose Giacalone, 47, was put off by the rushed rollout of the vaccine. All past vaccines they've gone through years of experimentation phase, she told the Epoch Times. She doesn't believe the DOE is dealing with staffing shortages caused by the mandate as well as it says it is. They are lying about the substitutes that they have. They really don't have enough people, she said. They have people who are not qualified. You can't replace my 23 years of experience with somebody off the street or even a new teacher. This issue gave Ellis hope that the mandate may be reversed due to future lawsuits against the DOE. The agency will break its own rules to cope with the shortages, she anticipated. There are a lot of things they're going to have to do illegally with our students, she said. Now, to be very frank, I don't blame them one bit. It's interesting because I was looking at here, speaking of the United Federation of Teachers, there's a thing called right to fair representation. This is from the NLRB's own website. You have the right to be represented by a union fairly, in good faith, and without discrimination. Your union has a duty to represent all employees, whether members of the union or not, fairly, in good faith, and without discrimination. This duty applies to virtually every action that a union may take in dealing with an employer as a representative, including collective bargaining, handling grievances, and operating exclusive hiring halls, which is the call list. For example, a union which represents you cannot refuse to process the grievance because you have criticized union officials or because you are not a member of a union. But the duty does not ordinarily apply to rights a worker can enforce independently, such as filing workman's compensation claim or to internal union affairs, such as the union's right to discipline members for violating its own rules. And if they believe they've been misrepresented, they have to go to the grievances process and all that on past contracts with the office relations of New York City. And based on this, if they believe they've been misrepresented, that would be considered Section 8B1A of the Act, of the National Labor Relations Act. And they could see how many of those teachers actually, former teachers, may file against that, because in good faith they may have been misrepresented. And of course, they can look at the contract too. I was trying to look at the past contract with the UFT, and the latest one was in 2018. And it's a real shame because they feel like they've been coerced. Okay, so, and that's a no-no for maybe possibly either side. But, so, here's another thing you should look at too. Article 1, New York's Constitution, called Bill of Rights. Rights, privileges, and franchise secure. Not power of legislation to dispense with the primary election in certain cases. Alright, so I'm probably not going to go too far. I'm just going to do something real quick here. It says, no member of the state shall be disenfranchised or deprived of any of the rights and privileges secured to any citizen thereof unless by the law of the land or the judgment of his or her peers. So, the people who have been unpaid leave I'm convinced, have been violated, been disenfranchised. Supporting medical Jim Crow. And of course, the contract plus the contract with the union and the employer. Everyone's going to be part of the bargaining agreement, regardless. Creed or race don't matter. Some contracts do have that. And if it does, that's a good challenge. And I encourage the UFT to get their tail in gear. Because if not, it will hurt you and the cause. And you declare yourselves a paper union or officer. Imposter, fraudulent, fake. Something to look at. Examine and think about it thoroughly. Well, that was my brief, and that will be it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or send us interesting check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to the quorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote, including the 2 memos of this episode on my speaker page. If you want to contact me via email, you can go to LokiLuckNumbers03@protonmail.com. If you want to donate, you go to paypal.me or cash.app/LokiLuckNumber3. If you want to donate or subscribe to the Epoch Times, that would be cool. That's a good site. I'm going to have to subscribe to them as well, because I always like their information. And they try to give all sides the best they can. If they got updates, they'll let you know. If they made an error, they'll correct it. And that's good. Those are the newspapers I will support. So once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.